All right. Greetings. All right. Greetings, everyone. Welcome to Dorsey's Resource. The title of this video is going to be Status Correction and Key Legal Terminology to Familiarize. But first, as usual, before I get started, I'm going to give a disclaimer. This video is for informational, educational, and entertainment purposes only. Please understand everyone's individual circumstance or situation may be different. It's up to every individual competent person to please do his or her own homework and research into the matter being discussed. This information is not to be construed as legal advice. In the event you feel you need to seek a competent professional, it is encouraged that you do so at one's own leisure. Dorsey's Resource Channel is not responsible or liable for any misuse of this information. Everyone is responsible for their own actions. With that being said, these are simply my opinions. All rights are reserved. Now, let's get started. I want to thank everyone who's here so far for joining me. I wanted to go over some more information that I feel is pertinent at this time that deals with a lot of questions I receive in the redemption education stuff. And I also wanted to kind of let you all know that I had been considering, and I talked about this a long time ago, starting a Patreon account, for several reasons, obviously. But those who wanted more further in-depth information, I think it would be fair, and I could go over, I could break things down in a much greater capacity. Because I've received numerous inquiries. I don't really provide private consultations, even though I have answered questions that people have asked me that's contacted me through email, etc. Terry said, hey, I made it. Laugh out loud finally. Greetings to you, Terry. Thank you for joining. So that's just, I said that would also make things more private, and also it would cut down on a lot of the gatekeepers and trolls, where I would have different levels on the Patreon account as far as the way some people have it, like the real high level stuff. There would be it would be a little bit more in terms of donation wise, but I would be able to go more in depth for those who are serious about learning some of this type of information. Just some ideas, just throwing it out there. It's not a guarantee that I'm going to continue to be on YouTube either. Just putting it out there. Haven't really decided what I'm going to do. I'm still, contemplating, because there was an event, I won't say the name, that I did have obligations to some years ago. My paperwork is still basically in their hands or whatever. That's all I could probably pretty much mention at this time. A response that I got, they did recognize my material from a message that I got from this was some months back. So without further ado, I want to go over key definitions to research and investigate in depth that deals with status correction and legal terminology that's important when you're learning this information. First of all, a lot of people still don't understand. I may go over some documentaries as well, but keep in mind, members of the Bar Association, the BAR stands for, it's an acronym for British Accredited Regency, British Accredited Association, enjoys a higher rank above regular U.S. citizens. And some might wonder, what do I mean by this? That P number that paralegals or lawyers are issued is through their county to practice the law, by the way. This in turn, in sense, gives them a form of dual citizenship. Elder was sharing this with me, by the way. So when they take you on as a client, you are declaring yourself incompetent to handle your own commercial affairs. This is the way the cabal, the people at the top, set up this legal system as like a third party to drown out some of this background noise. They set up the legal system as a third party to make it like exclusive for certain individuals in the society, the public sector that they control, or whatnot. I'm going to lead into that later about the debtor. Also, some more information, like I said, to reiterate. So when they take you on as a client and you say you hire a lawyer, you hire an attorney, you're declaring yourself incompetent to handle your commercial affairs. So the lawyer that you hired, or attorney, as you call them, I hear there's a difference between lawyer and attorney. I don't really that aspect I don't really know too much about. I kind of see them as one and the same, but you know, people use both similar to like money, currency, the FRNs, Federal Reserve notes that we carry in our pocket. And legally, it's a Federal Reserve note. There's a difference between legal aspect. Many people in the population still don't get that when they study this type of information. That's why they get confused. Stuff gets messed up. But there's a difference between legal side. Okay, to understand better. So once you hire a lawyer or attorney, you're giving them the power of attorney to administer your estate. That's AKA your legal person, AKA trust account, some call it. And this one sister I was working with last year, she actually told me she hired an attorney and he referred to her name, legal person, as to the trust account. She actually mentioned that on a private conference call we used to have on Sundays, by the way. It's a true story. And she follows me, by the way. Big shout out to Blue, by the way. She knows who she is out there. Thank you for still following me, Blue. Big shout out to you, Blue. Namaste. So through your acquiescence, when you sign your signature, you're signing over in many aspects, full power of attorney. You're declaring yourself incompetent. Now, some of the key, a few definitions I'm going to go over, and I did a previous video, as you all remember, several videos where I've gone over key legal terms, and this is important. Please research in depth the term person in the Black's Law Dictionary. You can also look up the Webster's Dictionary. That's like the stuff we were taught in grade school is the difference between the legal side. And the Black's Law Dictionary, by the way, in case you all are not familiar, that's a dictionary that people who are studying for the bar exam or to get their license to practice the law utilize that. Darren Jackson says, just checking in and gaining knowledge. Okay, appreciate you, Darren. Feel free. It is open. It's Q&A as well, even though I didn't put that in there. You guys are welcome to comment, ask questions, so feel free. This is the best time to reach me, by the way. I put that out there, but to try to stay on topic, please look up the term person. Another term to look up is individual. This is in the Black's Law Dictionary. Please look up person and individual. Also, there's a separate definition for natural person. Natural person describes us, I'll give it to you, as our flesh and blood human being that we are. And some of the Black's Law dictionaries, you might have to go to previous versions. Some of them you can download online. Some popular ones are like the 4th edition, 6th edition, all the way up to 8th or 9th edition. And then a friend of mine that has a friend, I met her before. She has her law license. She mentions that when they study nowadays, they have an abridged version. That's like a condensed version to help, I guess, students study better, because nowadays everything is fast, quick. Like a lot of the millennials, they want to do stuff like they even called our generation X, the microwave generation. Like, we want stuff now. So the concept, they made an abridged version for those who don't want to take the time in depth. But I recommend, you can't be a weekend warrior with this information. You have to study in depth. Terry says, just to say the truth with attorneys and judges, etc. Let me pull that back up. Let's see if I pull that up again. Oh, okay. If I can pull that up, I'm having some issues right now. Live chat, all messages are visible. Okay. Oh, okay, I'm trying to get, okay, there we go. Terry says, just to say the truth with attorneys and judges, etc., never have had a license to practice the law in here in the USA, and the Bar Association is a club, not anything that gives them the right to practice. Yes, that's true at the same time, but remember, they control the public sector, and what a lot of times people don't emphasize, some of this stuff goes back into history. You have to study history when they came up with the 13th and 14th Amendment about the titles of nobility. I won't go into all that. Plus, I don't have my notes separately, but to bring clarification, it may sound too esoteric for somebody. That's some good information that you have, Terry, but keep in mind when you're explaining this to people or newbies for the first time, and they think that you flew over the cuckoo's nest, or this information that I'm going over is inaccurate, we have to break this down better. They don't understand about the Erie Railroad versus Tompkins case of 1938, how that changed the majority of courts that were common law under statutory. jurisdiction under color of law, de facto, and that's the actual term, de facto. So don't want to go too far above, but you are correct. They were not supposed to take titles of nobility because historically the British were used to infiltrated the United States. That's where you have the Boston Tea Party, the Redcoats. That stuff is tied in with that stuff, like the Redcoats were the infiltrators. See, Terry says, very true, you're exactly right. Yeah, so just kind of going over clarification. I try to be careful not to go too far above people's heads. That's why I go over a lot of basic information, because I have people that have asked me questions, and I can tell by me being at a certain level on this, I'm not, I would say, super advanced. You have some people that are at a much more advanced level than I'm at, and still studying. But I'm at the capacity that I'm at. I'm able to recognize when people come to me with questions. I can still tell if there's information that they don't understand by certain things they mention to me. So that's why I'm going back over the basics. Another important definition to look up: juristic person. Look up the term juristic person. Also, I said color of law. You can still use, they have online encyclopedias, but I recommend, if you do have in your possession a Black's Law legal dictionary, if you want to study, say you don't have the money, the few bookstores that are still left, Barnes and Noble, I believe, had some. The physical locations, there's libraries that are still around, separately law libraries. They may have different versions, but I personally have Black's Law 6th edition. By the way, the 6th edition is the kind I have, but I also have on PDF. I'm not sure exactly where I have it located at, but there's also different versions you can download for free online. I don't know if they're still online, but you know, when you research how there's a lot of PDF books and files that you can pull up online. And then there's also online free encyclopedias, like you have Investopedia, what's that? You have Cornell Law University, whatever, online. These are credible sites, by the way, because there's those gatekeepers and people out there that'll try to deflect and say you can't believe what you read on the internet, this, that, but you know, the internet is used for a lot of things, by the way, but there is censorship and stuff like that's going on. So I do recommend that you look at the physical Black's Law dictionary, like the physical book, if you can, and cross-reference. That's how you can gather validity. So you can see what I'm saying is very credible. It's reputable, that I'm not making this up. That's how you judge the accuracy of this information, because I'm showing my real face. I'm not hiding behind a pseudonym name, a fake account. So this shows credibility, by the way. So without further ado, you also want to look up the term estate. You want to see what estate means. And some of these terms are similar to each other, or they overlap, like estate and trust. But you want to look up the definition of estate, trust. So I went over person. Look up the definition of individual, the terminology. Natural person, that's a separate definition that deals with the flesh and blood you. And they actually recognize that. Judges have to be aware of that. There's a distinct difference between a natural person and a person legally. We're speaking legal because, remember, they practice legalese within the judicial system. It's not a coincidence. They speak in an entirely different language, and a lot of it is pertains to Latin, the origins of the English language. And notice how Latin is even related to other languages. Some even say some of the love languages. Notice there's a lot of Latin. And as a friend of mine pointed out, what part of the world that still uses Latin or still speaks Latin, I didn't know this, but he mentioned at the Vatican, because I shared some of the history about Capitis Diminutio Maxima, by the way. Hold on for a second, guys. Okay, I had to pause for a minute. As you guys know, I'm still at the you know what, so but other key definitions to go over, you want to look up online Title 28, Section 3002, subsection 15A of the United States Codes. Please look up Title 28, Section 3002. You want to scroll down a subsection. Last time I checked the Cornell Law University online, and this goes into the details about the United States being a federal corporation. You also want to look up in previous Black's Law dictionaries what the term United States meant, by the way. Daniel Mendoza says, what's up, Dorsey? Blessings. Thank you for the good info. Thank you. Big shout out to you. Appreciate you for joining, by the way. Okay, here we go. Be back, guys. Okay, I'm back. Thank you guys so far for continuing to follow me. I'm still at the slavery plantation, as you guys know. So I was going over key terminology to look up in a Black's Law dictionary. Another key term, there's this myth or rumor about the Moors or whatever, but to provide validity, please look up the Dred Scott case. And that's specifically, from what I looked up, I know, I'm not sure if it's in other editions, but I have the physical Black's Law 6th edition. Look up the Dred Scott case. So if any of you all have Black's Law Dictionary 6th edition, you can look up they have the actual Dred Scott case. You can read about that in there and read about information about the 14th Amendment. Because even though I said key terminology in this video, this history is important to understand. With status correction, they put different entities and it's encrypted in a way. But like for example, when you talk about race, like what race are we competing, the legal terms between black and white, some people get confused. I found out years ago, and I didn't get this because I kept hearing about this until recently. Then it dawned on me. I said, oh, because I still study myself. But when they have, like, when you have black people and white people, they're not necessarily referring to years ago to skin color. They were referring to a status, you know, understand. So white actually meant at one time certain people who were white, not meaning if you were melanated at all. It meant that you were at a higher status in a caste system. Look up, they have different caste systems, and different societies historically have used caste systems. That's like a pecking order, a ranking system. Like, you know, the military has like E2, E3, E4, E5, it goes up. Then you have like sergeant, admiral, lieutenant, all the way up to like general. You know, then you have 1-star general all the way up to 5-star general. It's a status. So white and black was actually a status. So white had a higher rank and status. Wasn't referring to actually skin color. I know this sounds deep, but you got to understand, because the guy was trying to explain this. I was listening to a relationship channel, and this other guy came on because some of this information overlaps, and he was trying to share some of this information with the elder, and the elder didn't understand. I think I might have tried to chime in the chat section and kind of explain. This is where this information, people need assistance in getting this. And I do understand the confusion, because I found some of these things out myself and it didn't dawn on me. And I said, oh, I finally got it till months later, because I knew years ago that that term meant just a description. It doesn't describe a true nationality. Like you know, you have nationalities of people, like, for example, Africa is a continent, but you know, you have different nations that are there. Like you have Ethiopians, you have Gambians, you have the Congo people, you have South Africans, many different parts. Zambia, there's different countries and different tribes and nationalities between the Jolie tribe. You have the Mandinkas, you know, for example. Like with Europeans, you have Irish, you have Scottish, you have Welsh, they're like English people, you have French, you have German. You know, then there's other things to describe the different types of Caucasian Jews, such as Ashkenazi, Khazarian. There was a documentary on YouTube. These are not my words. They said a large population of New York made up Ashkenazi Jews. They actually said this in the documentary. These are to familiarize yourself with the terms. This is how, when people are not familiar with this terminology, they get tricked, fooled just to go for anything. You see, they have it encrypted within the laws, the legal system. When you look these laws up, these laws give you the blueprint, the answers to follow, even instructions. Like the Bible is an acronym for basic instructions before leaving Earth, for example. Even though there's a lot of contradictions, these many of the laws and things that we study are encrypted. A lot of people don't know. Now, going back over the straw person, the legal entity, that's another term to look up, legal entity. I went over the Dred Scott case, which will relate to that. You want to look up online something called Resolution 75. Please look up Resolution 75. This is for those out there who think It's a rumor about the nationality wise about black people being Moors. This actually provides evidence, proof. Don't take my word for what I'm saying. Now, I want to put on the record, I don't belong to any of these organizations officially at all. I'm a researcher, and I'm just relaying, I'm a messenger. I'm sharing the information that is credible, that a lot of gatekeepers out there, especially one in particular hiding behind a fake account, puts out a lot of disinformation, misinfo. I'm here to correct that. That's why I'm here, why I do these videos on redemption education, to give you guys the correct information. That's why I'm going over the legal terms. She can huff and puff, she can be mad, no matter how much, you cannot change the law. This has been put on record, for the record, on the record, let the record show. These definitions that I'm going over are very, very important, by the way, and it provides genuine issue as a material fact in terms of evidence in the court system. That's why I go over these terms so much. You want to look up in lingus. This deals with the straw man or straw person, some may call it. In lingus is the proper legal definition for straw man. You want to look up res, what res means. Res is also codified privately in Title 9 of the United States Codes. They refer to you as a vessel, a ship. They have us listed as lost at sea. You're a legal person when you're acting as, you're signing as the surety, the signator, authorized representative, when you're not aware and you haven't changed your proper status and you're not operating from the proper side, then you're seen as a debtor. Remember, a debtor is seen as a permanent slave. Permanent slave under the 14th Amendment. You've been captured, so they consider you lost at sea. Lost at sea. You see? You get it? So there's a play on the words, and admiralty deals with the military. A maritime deals with the law of the seas, and they've combined both together, by the way. And you have to look up when I mentioned the Erie Railroad versus Tompkins case of 1938 to understand this. The banking system is also tied in. Look up Edward G. Griffin, or G. Edward Griffin, creature from Jekyll Island. His information was accurate. Please look up Edward, it may be G. Edward Griffin or Edward G. Griffin. It'll pull up for you on YouTube or online. Look up the information on his book, The Creature from Jekyll Island. There was even an audio about this. This information relates, believe it or not. I'm going to also give you guys key YouTube channels to look up. Look up Rob Ryder, his information. He's an excellent researcher. Look up Tex Mason, Yusuf L. You want to look up his advocates. That's Kelby Smith. He's based out west. His channel is called His Advocates. He goes over excellent information, very similar to what I am sharing. Eon, for example. See, we're all backing each other up. Now, mind you, I haven't met any of these people formally, except for maybe like one of them I've talked to, but I haven't met in person. By the way, I've just talked to maybe a couple, one online, the other person I've been able to in person. However, because there's a certain gatekeeper out there trying to say that I work with these people. No, we're all different researchers, but this shows credibility, that I'm reputable. I'm credible. That's why I'm going over this information once again, and I'm giving you other people to show that I'm not trying to take all the glory. I'm sharing other credible people to research that can back up what I'm saying, that also have similar information, because there's different processes in this as well. A lot of people don't understand that. April Lejeune has excellent quality information, contrary to popular belief, based on some of those other people that I just named. But those other channels, I'll go over again. Rob Ryder has excellent reading research material, videos he does. Tex Mason, his channel. Yusuf L, excellent, very excellent information. Look up Eon. Kelby Smith's channel is called His Advocates, very similarly. So, you know, to kind of get ready to close things down, I'm going to look for some other information I may not have gone over. So I did make sure I went over person. Please look up the definition of person and individual. Also, corporation is key. Look up the definition of corporation. See how it relates to individual. Okay, I don't want to keep, you know, just to reiterate, I went over juristic person. I went over the legal term for straw man. Some people say it's not real. The legal term is called in lingus. It's a Latin term. Spelled E-N-S-L-E-G-I-S. In lingus. Look up res, just R-E-S. R is in Roberto, E is in Edward, S is in Sally, res. That's connected to Title 9 privately of the United States Codes. Another thing about the debtor, the straw man is considered a permanent debtor if you haven't corrected your status, by the way. Also, the public sector system is designed to keep you as in a permanent underclass situation. The public sector, I'm gonna say that again, is designed to keep you in a permanent underclass situation, by the way. So this is why the debtor is a permanent slave. To reiterate, when you hire an attorney, they're issued that P number or paralegal to practice through the local county they're in. In a sense, this gives them dual citizenship. But when they take you on as a client and you hire them, you're saying I'm incompetent to handle my own commercial affairs. This is a legal implication. And there's a difference between the public sector and private sector. Matter of fact, I'll pull out the currency that we carry in our pocket. A dollar bill. It tells you right on the dollar bill. It says this note is legal tender for all debts, public and private. This note is legal tender for all debts, public and private. Why would it emphasize private if a private sector did not exist? Something to think about there, you see? So I'm breaking this information down in the purest form because it's like people still not getting it. Now I'm going to go over some documentaries that I recommend are important before I shut things down. Please look up Money Masters. Please check out Money Masters. Another documentary is very important. It's called Monopoly Men. This will tie in when I went over Edward G. Griffin, the creature from Jekyll Island. This backs that information up. These are researchers and people who worked on these documentaries. Some people even lost their lives in trying to share some of this information as well. You want to look up a documentary called Empire Ring. What is it called? Ring of Power. That is, forgive me. It's called Ring of Power, Empire of the City. It's still on YouTube. You can watch it for free. It's called Ring of Power, Empire of the City. Just randomly, some other documentaries that tie into how they perform eugenics and social engineering, like on the black community, that shows credibility. Look up Ma'afa 21. It's an African word or African term for black Holocaust. Look up Ma'afa 21. It's a reason. This documentary reveals some things about a lot of the Democrats and what they've been trying to push. For example, in the black community. The black, it's a term for black Holocaust. It's an African Akibalan term. Akibalan is an indigenous term for Africa. You know, when conquerors take over a civilization, they take over the belief system. They change the words around. They dumb the population down. It's the reason why I'm going over this information is to empower you. You guys have the power. I'm simply a messenger. I'm a researcher. That's what I do. Okay, that's why I'm breaking it down. I'm slowing down, breaking this down in the purest form, so you guys can clearly get it. And that's why I'm giving you these documentaries to show credibility. When these gatekeepers and shields come out here hiding behind fake accounts and they want you to believe them, these documentaries will expose the truth and provide solid evidence. This shows credibility. You see? So I'm breaking this down to the purest form. You know, they can't deny it. You know, let me see if there's some other documentaries I have in my notes here for you guys to go over that's important. So I went over Money Masters. I went over Monopoly Men. Also look up Bill Steele. By the way, look up Bill Steele. By the way, he helped worked on some of these documentaries. By the way, a couple I think I just mentioned. There's one that he did that dealt with the Wizard of Oz. By the way, there's symbolism in the Wizard of Oz. You want to check that out. There's a documentary called Scientists Are Under Attack. Now you would have to order this documentary, but this shows how what they're doing to the food agriculture worldwide. Shows evidence and different scientists explaining and validity what certain evil bad entities are doing. It's called Scientists Are Under Attack. Please look that up. But that, I think they don't have that on YouTube. So those who want further information, but there's other information they have on YouTube, educational information that deals with the medical industry, pharmaceutical industry, and the different things the cabal are doing behind that. You want to look up this documentary. It's older documentary, and it was banned. By the way, it was supposed to air on the Discovery Channel years ago. It was called Conspiracy of Silence. Please check out Conspiracy of Silence. The footage from it may look kind of old, but please take the time to check that documentary out. And when you get a chance, you want to share that with your grandma, your grandpa, your uncles, your aunties, your nieces, nephews. If you're older, you have children, you want to educate them. These documentaries are very important. Many things that were going on years ago are happening in today's society, and these documentaries will provide evidence and congruency to help connect the dots. It will put the pieces, the missing pieces in, that some of the things that you're hearing about today, like the Jeffrey Epstein stuff, the R. Kelly stuff, this documentary will help tie all of these things in. What's going on with Hollywood, the Nexium cult situation. Some individuals you want to look up, please check out Noreen Gosh. She's the woman, she pushed for legislation behind the Amber Alert system. Whenever children go missing, when her son was kidnapped years ago, I won't spoil it for you. Look up Noreen Gosh. Her information on YouTube as well as online. You can look these people up. There's also books you can look up on Amazon, and I recommend document and download this material while you can. Find a YouTube downloader. Document this. Spread the word. This is very important information that happened. These are things that happened years ago, but it's connected to what's going on today. It's not a coincidence. So this proves that there's people like myself and others that get accused of being conspiracy theorists. And that is not true. That is inaccurate. These are things that have already happened. John Bonacci, look his name up. He won a lawsuit connected to this situation years ago. His name was John Bonacci, or Bonacci. Some people might pronounce it differently, by the way. So this is tied in. But look up the documentary called Conspiracy of Silence. Some names of some women years ago. Look up Kathy O'Brien. Please look her name up on YouTube. Bryce Taylor. Please look her name up. Look up Kathy O'Brien. What's the first name? Look up Bryce Taylor. Will provide credibility to tie in. Please look up Ted Gunderson. He's a former FBI agent. Please look his name up. It's the reason why I go over these documentaries consistently. Like I said, once again, to reiterate, it will provide congruency. It will connect the pieces, and you'll see how these things tie in together. This is very important information, and it will also provide credibility and show you that people who get accused of being conspiracy theorists actually are not. They're people that tried to warn you, such as a radio talk show host in particular that got banned from YouTube. And I just heard him recently say, because the cabal is so wicked, so evil, they found out one of the places he lived at, he had to have around-the-clock security, private mercenaries guarding his property, because they sent out, I guess, you know, assassins and different people after this guy to try to shut him down, because he was sharing the information he was sharing is so accurate, despite his own political views. Take your personal feelings and emotions out of it, but he was warning people. He also interviewed a lot of these people, so people are risking their lives and trying to put real credible information out here. And it's astonishing how the mainstream media outlets are lying to the general public. Not all of them, but many of the majority at the top, as well as big tech companies that are censoring. These documentaries that I'm going over will provide evidence to show you who's telling the truth. Trust me, I'm confident in what I say, that when you look the information up, you'll say, hey, you know, Dorsey, he warned us. He's making a point. Right. So I don't take any credit. The glory goes to the Most High, but I'm just a messenger, a researcher, going over this information to share with you all from stuff that books that I've read. It's a combination. I read a book years ago called Children of the Matrix by David Icke. Has very pertinent information, especially related to that group that wants to go out west and do that thing. I won't say his book, that book I just mentioned. I did a video a long time ago, a while ago. Children of the Matrix by David Icke is an eye-opener. It explains what actually goes on, and he puts in a bibliography. Bibliographies show credibility, just like when you're in high school or college and you're required to cite your sources. A bibliography means you have to show whether you got your documents from a newspaper article, what book, what magazine, in the modern day society, or internet. That's just to show more credibility. So went over a lot of information to show you that stuff is tied to redemption education, but I wanted to go over that as well. And even though the title of this video dealt with status correction and key legal terminology, to go over. I went over quite a bit of information. So just to reiterate once again, some of the main definitions terms, please look up person, look up the difference between natural person, by the way. I see someone just jumped in the chat. King also says, yeah, Area 51, Lit Ray. Yeah, you knew what I was talking about. Because I try to speak in code sometimes. It kind of gives you guys the ability to brainstorm, by the way, which is good for you. It's healthy for your brain to brainstorm. So I don't just necessarily give you all the information, because I do research myself to show you all how I research information. I'm giving you guys some of my tools, the skills I use behind the scenes. Very simple. It's a lot of information on YouTube, but I recommend before they remove this information, please download it and document it as well. Laugh my you know what off. Yeah. But with that being said, you know, I've spent enough time on here. I appreciate you guys for following me. I'm your host, John Dorsey at Dorsey's Resource. You can follow me on Facebook at Dorsey's Resource. I'm on YouTube, of course, and I'm on Twitter at Dorsey's Resource. I do appreciate the inquiries that I sent, that were sent to my email address. Appreciate you. Will try to follow up when I get a chance. Don't forget to thumbs up this video. You're welcome to share this video as well, and subscribe if you haven't subscribed. YouTube will let you know in the upper right hand corner notification. So until next time, thank you guys for joining me. Take care.